The Watcher on Highway 16. The police told me not to talk about what I saw, not because they thought I was lying, because three other people had reported the exact same thing before they disappeared. I didn't know that when I made the call. I only knew that at 2:41 in the morning, somewhere along a deserted highway in the northern Canada, I had picked up a woman standing alone in the snow. And when I looked in my rear view mirror 20 minutes later, she was gone. The doors had never opened, the windows had never opened, and the road around us stretched from miles in every direction. There was nowhere she could have gone. That should have been the most frightening part. It was not. The most frightening part came 2 days later when a police officer showed me a photograph. The woman in the picture was the same passenger, same face, same clothing, same expression. According to official records, she had been missing since 1987. And I was not the first driver who claimed to have picked her up. I was simply the latest. My name is Eli Clausen. At the time, I worked as a long haul truck driver. Most of my routes crossed isolated stretches of northern British Columbia and the Yukon. Thousands of miles of forest, mountains, frozen lakes, and highways so empty that you could drive for hours without seeing another vehicle. If you have never traveled those roads at night, it is difficult to explain the isolation. The darkness feels endless. The trees feel endless. Sometimes it feels as though you have left the rest of the world behind. That is exactly how I felt on February 14, 2021. The storm began shortly after midnight. Heavy snow, poor visibility, temperatures well below freezing. I was driving south along Highway 16, a road with a reputation. Local call parts of it dangerous for reasons that have nothing to do with weather. Disappearances, abandoned vehicles, missing travelers, stories every truck driver has eventually. Most of us treat them as a cautionary tales. I certainly did, at least until that night. The woman appeared without warning. One moment the roadside was empty. The next moment she was standing beneath my headlights. I slammed the brakes. The truck skidded slightly before stopping. For several seconds, neither of us moved. She stood perfectly still on the shoulder. Dark coat, dark hair, no luggage, no vehicles nearby, nothing. The nearest town was nearby 50 miles away. I lowered the passenger's window. Are you okay? She didn't answer immediately. Then she nodded, slowly, mechanically, almost reluctantly. Need a ride? Another pause. Then, please. Her voice was barely above the whisper. Everything about the situation felt wrong, but leaving someone alone in those conditions felt worse. So I unlocked the passenger's door. She climbed inside. The moment she sat down, the temperature inside the cab seemed to drop. Not dramatically, just enough to notice. I introduced myself. No response. I tried again. Nothing. The woman simply started through the windshield, watching the road, watching the darkness. After several minutes, I finally asked her name. The answer took me by surprise because she smiled slightly before speaking and said, You already know it. I laughed nervously, assuming she had misunderstood the question. But something about the way she said it stayed with me, as though she genuinely believed it. For nearly 20 minutes, neither of us spoke. The storm intensified. Snow hammered the windshield. The road remained empty. Then I glanced toward the passenger seat and realized something strange. The woman hadn't blinked once. Not once. She continued staring through the windshield, expressionless, motionless, almost like a photograph. A cold sensation settled in my stomach. I looked away immediately, trying not to overthink it, trying to focus on driving. Then she suddenly spoke, without turning her head, without changing expression. She said, "Do you see him?" My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "See who?" The woman slowly raised one finger and pointed towards the rear view mirror. I looked and immediately wished I had not. At first, everything appeared normal: dark road, snow, headlights reflecting off falling flags. Then I noticed something standing in the center of the highway behind us, a figure far away, almost hidden by the storm, watching perfectly still. My pulse quickened. The distance should have been increasing. We were moving at highway speed. Yet, when I checked the mirror again 30 seconds later, the figure appeared closer. Not much closer, just enough to notice. The woman continued staring forward. "He follows the people who stop." I felt a knot form in my stomach. "What are you talking about?" No answer, just silence. Then, "Don't let him catch up." I looked into the mirror again. The figure was definitely closer, still walking, still following, still visible through the storm, and somehow still keeping pace with the truck. That's when I began to realize that whatever was happening on Highway 16 that night had started long before I picked up the woman. And somewhere behind us in the darkness, something had been waiting for a very long time. I told myself it was another traveler, a hitchhiker, maybe someone caught in the storm. Anything, anything except what my instincts were screaming. But no longer I watched the figure in the mirror, the less human it appeared. Not because of how it looked, because of how it moved, or rather, how it did not. The figure remained perfectly upright. No swinging arms, no visible stride, no natural movement. It simply seemed to glide forward throughout the snow, like a photograph being pulled closer. The woman beside me never looked away from the road. "He sees you, know," she said quietly. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. What does that mean? No answer, only silence. The next town was nearly 30 miles away, a tiny settlement consisting of a gas station, a motel, and a dinner. Nothing more. I decided that was where I would stop. Find a police officer, get the woman somewhere safe, then figure out what was happening. The storm intensified. Visibility dropped further. The road disappeared into a tunnel of billowing snow. Every few minutes I checked the mirror. The figure continued following, always the same distance, never falling behind, never getting closer, just there, watching, waiting. 20 minutes later, the lights of the gas station appeared through the storm. Relief washed over me immediately. Human beings, warm buildings, civilization. I pulled into the parking lot and shut off the engine. For the first time in nearly an hour, I felt safe. Then I looked toward the passenger seat. The woman was gone. For several seconds, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. The seat was empty, completely empty. The door remained locked. The snow beneath the passenger side was untouched. No footprints, no tracks, nothing. The woman had simply vanished. I stumbled out of the truck, checked the parking lot, checked around the building. Nothing. The storm erased visibility beyond a few yards. Yet there was no sign she had ever been there. My pulse raced. The entire situation felt unreal, like a dream beginning to collapse. Then I noticed something on the passenger seat, a photograph. I picked it up carefully. The image showed a section of Highway 16, the exact stretch I had been driving earlier. Snow covered the road, trees lined both sides, and standing in the center of a highway was a woman. The same woman. The photograph looked old, very old. The colors had faded, no corners were torn. as though it had been carried for years. Then I turned it over. A date had been written on the back, February 14, 1987, exactly 34 years earlier. I brought the photograph inside the gas station. The clerk immediately recognized it. The reaction on his face told me everything. The color drained from his skin. Where did you get that? I explained what had happened. At least as much as could. The man listened quietly, then locked the front door, closed the blinds, and told me something I wish I had never heard. The woman had a name. Her name was Clara, and she had disappeared on that highway in 1987. According to local reports, Clara had been hitchhiking between towns during a snowstorm. Several drivers claimed they saw her that night. One truck driver reportedly picked her up. The driver never reached his destination. Neither did Clara. Both vanished. No bodies were ever found. No vehicles was ever recovered. Nothing. The story eventually became local folklore. One of dozens of disappearances stories connected to the highway. But there was one detail most people never heard. The driver had made a radio call shortly before disappearing. A distress call. The recording still existed, and according to the clerk, everyone who heard it described the same thing: absolute terror. The clerk retrieved an old laptop from beneath the center. After several minutes of searching, he found the file. The recording began with static, heavy breathing, then a man's voice, shaking, panicked. I can see someone behind my truck. A pause, the sound of an engine, wind. Then he should not be able to keep up. The hair on my neck stood up because I had said nearly the exact same thing less than an hour earlier. The recording continued. The driver's breathing became faster, more desperate. Then came the sentence that froze my blood. He got closer when she disappeared. Silence filled the room. Neither of us spoke. The clerk slowly closed the laptop. Outside, snow struck the windows. The storm seemed even louder now because both of us understood something. The woman was not the danger. The thing following her was. A sudden knock echoed through the building. Three slow taps against the glass door. Everyone froze. The clerk took toward the entrance. His face went pale immediately. I turned and felt my stone prop. A man stood outside, motionless, watching us through the storm. At first glance, he appeared normal: heavy coat, dark hat, winter boots. But something felt wrong, deeply wrong. The proportion, the posture, the stillness. He was not moving at all, not even slightly, like a mannequin standing in the snow. Then I realized something. There were no footprints around him, none, not a single track leading to the door. The knock came again, three slow taps. The man never changed expression, never blinked, never moved. He simply watched. The clerk backed away from the window. Don't open it. I was not planning to. Yet, for some reason, I could not stop looking. The man's face seemed strangely familiar. Not familiar because I had seen him before. Familiar because he looked like someone I could not quite identify. Then realization hit me. The face resembled mine. Not exactly, just enough to notice, just enough to be impossible to ignore. The man smiled slowly, deliberately. Then he raised one hand and pointed toward the parking lot, toward my truck. The same instant, every light inside the gas station went out. Darkness swallowed the room. The storm disappeared. The world became silent, and somewhere outside in the blackness, something began walking toward the building. The darkness lasted only a few seconds. The darkness lasted only a few seconds, but it felt much longer. the kind of darkness that makes you forget where you are, the kind that feels alive. Neither the clerk nor I spoke. We stood frozen, listening. Then we heard it. A footstep outside. Crunch. Another crunch. Slow. Measured. Moving through the snow toward the building. The light flickered back on. The storm returned. The sound of the wind rushed into existence again. I looked toward the glass door. The man was gone. No footprints, no tracks, nothing. The parking lot was empty, yet the footsteps continued, circling the building, one side, then the other, as though something was walking around us just beyond sight. The clerk whispered a curse under his breath. Then he locked the office door behind the counter. That was when I realized he was genuinely afraid. Not uneasy, not concerned, terrified, like a man who had been this before. Tell me what that thing is. My voice sounded smaller than I intended. The clerk started. The clerk stared toward the dark windows. For several moments he remained silent. Then he finally answered. We call him the Watcher. The name sent a chill through me. Who is he? The clerk shook his head. No one knows. The footsteps continued outside, slow, patient. People started talking about him decades ago. Mostly truck drivers, travelers, people driving alone. Another crunch outside, closer this time. They would see someone standing beside the road, usually a woman, someone, sometimes a child, sometimes an injured man asking for help. The clerk followed. If they stopped, he noticed them. I remembered Clara's value. He follows the people who stop. The footsteps suddenly ceased. The silence that followed felt worse. Then came another sound, a vehicle door opening. Outside, my truck. I looked through the window. The driver's side door stood open, swinging gently in the wind. I knew for a fact I had closed it, locked it. Yet there it was, open, waiting. The radio inside the truck activated. Even from inside the gas station, I could hear static crackling through the speakers. Then a voice emerged, a familiar voice, my own. The blood drained from my face. The clerk heard it too. We both stood frozen. Outside, through the storm, my voice echoed from the truck radio. I should not have stopped. Static, heavy breathing. Then, if you are hearing this, leave now. I felt physically sick because the voice didn't sound recorded. It sounded immediate, current, like someone speaking from the driver's seat at that very moment. The transmission continued. My truck is still there. A pause. I can see it. The words made no sense. Then the voice began to shake. He looks like me now. The radio dissolved into statics, and suddenly I understood why the man outside had seemed familiar. The watcher was not choosing a face, he was copying one, mine. The color grabbed my arm. We have to leave. Leave? How? The back road. His expression was desperate. If we stay until sunrise, he will keep watching. The way he said it made my stomach tighten. What happens if he keeps watching? The clerk didn't answer immediately. When he finally did, his voice was barely audible. They disappeared. We left through a rear exit. The storm hit us immediately. Wind, snow, darkness. The world beyond a few feet simply didn't exist. We climbed into the clerk's pickup truck and headed toward a logging road that wound through the forest. For nearly 20 minutes, neither of us spoke. The headlights illuminated nothing but trees and falling snow. Then I looked in the side mirror and saw headlights behind us following. No vehicle had been parked outside the gas station when we left. Nothing should have been behind us. Yet There they were, two distant lights moving through the storm, keeping pace. The clerk noticed them too. His grip tightened on the steering wheel. Don't look back. I kept looking anyway. The headlights gradually drew closer, not fast, not aggressively, patiently, the way a predator follows an exhausted animal. The road narrowed, trees crowded both sides. The storm worsened. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Then the headlight behind us disappeared. For a moment I felt relief. Then the radio activated. Static burst from the speakers, and a voice emerged. Clara's voice, weak, distant, almost crying. You need to stop. The clerk shook his head violently. No. The voice returned, closer this time. Please stop. I looked at him. His face had gone pale. What is wrong? The answer came a moment later. The road ended. The pickup slid to a stop. Beyond the headlights, the forest opened into a clearing, a massive clearing, one that neither of us had even seen before. The clerk stared ahead in horror. That is impossible. I understood why immediately. Because standing in the clearing were vehicles, dozens of them, cars, trucks, motorcycles, some modern, some decades old, all abandoned, all covered in snow. The missing vehicles, the ones never found, the ones connected to disappearance along Highway 16. My breath caught in my throat. A rusted transport truck stood near the center, its faded company logo barely visible beneath years of snow. The clerk whispered, 1987, Clara's truck driver. The one who vanished, the one from the recording. The truck had been here all along, hidden, waiting, just like the others. The radio erupted with voices, hundreds of voices, men, women, children, all speaking at once, all desperate. The sound was overwhelming. Then, through the chaos, one sentence became the clear. A single warning repeated over and over. Don't look at him. The words echoed through the truck. Again, again, again. Too late. I already had. Movement appeared beyond the vehicles. At first I thought it was another person, then another, and another. Dozens of figures standing among the abandoned cars, watching, silent, motionless. Their faces gradually became visible, and every single one resembled someone else, a copied face, a borrowed face, a stolen identity, like unfinished version of a human beings. Among them I recognized Clara, the truck driver from 1987, people from missing persons posters, people who should not have been there, all standing quietly in the snow, watching the edge of the clearing, watching something approach. The watcher emerged from the darkness. For the first time I saw him clearly and immediately wished I had not. Not because he was monstrous, not because he was disfigured, because he was not. He looked exactly like me. Every detail, every feature, every scar. The only difference was the smile. I smiled far too wide, far too patient, far too knowing, the kind of smile worn by someone who has waited a very long time. The copied version of me stopped beside the abandoned truck. Then he spoke, not with his voice, with mine, perfectly. You stopped. The figures behind him remained silent, watching, waiting. You always stop. A terrible realization formed in my mind. The woman, Clara, the standard travelers, the injured people beside the road, they were bad, not intentionally, but effectively. The watcher was not hunting the lost, he was hunting the people who tried to help them. The thing wearing my face took another step forward, then another. The crowd behind it began moving too, slowly, almost peacefully, as though inviting us to join them. The clerk started the truck. The engine roared to life. We reversed so quickly that the tires nearly lost traction. Neither of us looked back again. We reached the highway shortly before dawn. The storm finally began to weaken. The clearing never appeared on any map. Search teams never found it. Authorities dismissed the entire story. Stress, exhaustion, hypothermia. They had explanation for everything. Everything except one thing. 3 months later, a police officer visited my home. He showed me several photographs recovered during an investigation. Images connected to unsolved disappearances. Most mean nothing to me. Then he placed the final photograph on the table. My stomach dropped. The image showed Highway 16 during a snowstorm. Taken at night, a lone truck traveled down the road, my truck, and standing on the shoulder was a woman, Clara, waiting, just as she had been when I first saw her. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was farther down the road, barely visible through the snow, walking behind my truck, keeping pace, a dark figure, watching, smiling, wearing my face. That photograph was taken in 1994. 27 years before I drove that highway. The officer could not explain it, neither could I, and I still can't. Because every winter, when storms close the northern roads, reports begin appearing online. Truck drivers, night travelers, people stranded along Highway 16, all describing the same thing. A lonely woman standing beside the road asking for help, and far behind her, someone watching from the darkness, someone who looks familiar, someone who gets a little closer every time you stop. The latest report was posted 6 nights ago. The driver included a photograph. I wish he had not. Because standing beside the woman was another figure now, a second watcher, a second face, my face, and this time it was smiling directly at camera.